But, I mean, if it looks like I mean, do we need to do that now, or do you want to just? I mean, if we can always do it by email, right? And I can make that announcement at the next Alderman meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a month to worry about it. Are we ready to proceed? All right, I will gavel in
Progress.
the April Ways and Means Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims,
Here.
Alderman Gould,
Here.
Alderwoman Tice. Here. Alderwoman Harder.
Here.
All members present.
Great. Item 2 on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. Chair would entertain a motion to remove item 8B, upfitting of the K-9 vehicle item from the agenda at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then approve, I need to entertain a motion to
Yeah,
approve.
motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Or, I mean, that'll stand by acclamation. And so item 3 on the agenda is report of committee chair and alderman. I do not have a report. Alderman Gould?
No report.
Alderwoman Tice?
No report?
Alderman Harder?
Or no report?
Okay. Item 4 appears to be no city administrator report. That moves us down to item 5, which are department reports. 5A are the financial statements. Who's leading us on that one?
Have December, January, and February. So December of 23 is closed. We did all the rules. We're actually getting ready to wrap up the audit. Yay. We are on target. So the December financials are in there. The highlights are in there for your revenues and expenditures. I actually have 3 months in here. I'm not planning to overview all 3 months. Any immediate questions on December? December actually ended very well for all funds combined. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. In revenue, the ad valorem taxes were down. Is
Correct.
there a reason for that?
Ad valorem is because we have closed out the TIFs. So the
Oh, okay.
are directly associated with the TIFs that and those funds combined with them. So they are down due to the fact that they were paid off early.
Okay.
And then therefore we'll get ready to pay off the districts accordingly. So
Okay.
yes, that is why they are down.
And then there were some things that were sort of off budget, like the muni operating employee benefits and sanitation salaries that were a lot more than budget. And did we account for that in this next year's budget?
Yes, ma'am, we did. What's sort of happened was there is a labor model that wasn't necessarily used for the 23 budget that was used for the 24 budget. So yes, we are making sort of those appropriate changes as we move along.
Great. And then the last question I have is about in the variance report with ECDC, and those were quite different than budget in the police. They were, I didn't write down, the expenditure, correct. So it was quite a bit more. So is that, was that because cities are leaving and?
They've also adopted a compensation plan, and it's a 3-year phased approach to get to the 75th percentile. They're not doing it all in 1 year. And then the model is based on a formula that does a calculation of cost for service over the past average, I believe, 3 years. And so if your usage for cost for service goes up, you see a proportionate increase in your cost.
So how did we budget for that this year? Because it just seemed like way off last year at year end.
So, ours is for a calendar year, and then the budget for ECDC is adopted in July 1st. So we anticipate that the cost is going to go up maybe 20% for the 24-25 fiscal year. So the current budget does not, our current fiscal year 24 budget does not take into account that increase.
Okay, well, I guess maybe next budget cycle, I'll have to remember to ask
We can-
specifically about that and make sure that we take it up.
Right,
So
so
that then we're
there's-
not having these huge
Right.
variances at the end of
There's
the
no
year.
good way, and maybe Michelle and I could discuss it. How do you truly, you could pad the budget for what you think might be an increase, but the increase hasn't been the same amount each year.
Yeah.
It's based on calls for service. But I think we can maybe try to do a better job of
Hopefully we could
of
do some forecasting associated with it.
projecting. And, you know, there's a discussion presently at ECDC, and, you know, this was suggested actually by Chief Spees. Do you want to talk about that? I think it's good to talk about it now in terms of how we do the calculation.
So the calls for service are what generates the cost out of ECDC, and that's always the moving target for us when we're trying to budget for it. Last year, we had a couple programs that came online. One of them was the parks. Our retail officer, we generated a lot more calls for service because of self-initiated call-outs. Many of these calls, I would argue, should not be billed. So it's a parks officer saying, I'm on patrol in Brentwood Park. There's no action needed by the dispatcher. It's just a notification of wherever an officer is in case there's an emergency and we know where he is. So there's ongoing discussion at ECDC amongst the board of directors how they're going to bill. And there's multiple options for that. They could bill by call for service. They could bill by population of your city. They could bill by the number of employees in your police and fire service. It's always a discussion, and it seems to be
Right.
a moving target. And that's why we can never really hone in on what our cost is going to be year to year.
So that's before ECDC, we wanted the police operations committee to take a look at it, be in agreement on the types of calls that are self-initiated that can be removed. So they supported it unanimously. So that came back to the board, and when the ECDC director ran the new numbers, our cost, so for 24-25 is going up by maybe 20%. It's going down maybe about the same amount, but there are other cities whose costs are going up. So then, you know, what I'm hearing already is that, well, we're going to want to approach this slowly because this new method does not favor our city. So we are trying to schedule a special meeting of the ECDC board to take on this discussion. And I'm pushing that this be adopted for the next budget year because it benefits the city. But I'm also hearing that there are others who might want us to slow play it and have more time to discuss it. So I really can't tell you what the outcome is going to be, but I've indicated that I'm going to challenge it strongly and hope that we can adopt that for the 24-25 budget. So I'm just one vote out of, the 6 members, so we'll see what happens.
It sounds like that would certainly be a situation that we ought to really work hard for. And I would hate for our officers not to make these calls, not to do these check-ins, because then it's going to like domino into costing us more of the ECDC. So like, I don't want us to get to a situation where we're changing our good practices for our police
Because the
because
cost.
of ECDC charges. That just, I sort of, maybe you're not really doing that, but like, I sort of worry that that might be something that's thought about, and it shouldn't be.
Some people actually think on that maybe in the police force, because of how it's calculated to bring their costs down, and it's more about officer safety, that they're not really calling these calls out so that they won't be charged. We don't know whether it's truly anecdotal or whether it's factual that is happening, but it's something that the board is taking under consideration and having a discussion about.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all, those are the only questions I have.
So we'll start with December. So once again, December, it has wrapped up. I believe it has wrapped up nicely. Once again, I was sort of June to December for here, but when I looked at the trends and I looked at the items and where they sat, December seemed to have wrapped up nicely. This also does include the audit entries. So we've moved everything back. We've done the accruals, and we've done items necessary. Any further questions? January and February are also included, which gets us caught up for 2024. And they both trend really well. Once again, we're all sort of in just the first parts of 2024. Nothing seemed to stand out. Nothing sort of jumped and spiked. Nothing seemed abnormal by nature. So do you have any questions on January or February based upon the data enclosed?
I mean, I just generally, where do we stand with the county and the sales tax situation? I mean, that,
In my office and in our discussions, we do know that those are one of those items that we have the cash available. I have not heard where the conversations continue to lie, but the cash is available and ready as they continue to hold those conversations and determine what is the next
but we
step.
don't even know what they're going to ask for. So the cash we have, we don't know if that's enough, too much. I
I
mean,
do believe that prior to my arrival, there was an analysis based upon what they thought should be appropriate back to them, and we do have that available. And once again, I don't know where those conversations lie.
County to complete this new software that they're having developed. And the purpose of that is then we'll have more factual data that would tell us the amount that they're asking for and why, so that we could easily maybe agree with that more so. So I think we have maybe 1/6, is that 1/6? And I think they had asked for maybe most of that, 1/5, but our preliminary analysis is that maybe what we should remit back to them is 1/3.
okay.
And so I know that the last time the mayor had met with Dr. Page, and he confirmed everything I said about the software that's being developed. I haven't asked for an update on where that is. I presume that when they have it, they will notify us, but I can certainly reach out to them and find out what the status of that is.
It's just a thing that seems to linger over
It's been several
our city
years.
for a
Yes.
while. And I get that, but like for the county to move on this, and so we can get it off of our books and focus, you know. Okay.
Agreed and understood. December, January, February, any
Great, thank you. Excuse me, item 5B on the agenda is the investment report. Looks like we've got Brad online to share with us the good news.
Yeah, I hope so. Good evening. Okay, I thought I'd do things a little bit differently today and go over the report first, and then I'd give you a quick little market update at the end. Um, uh, I, I think you guys have that in your packet. The first page there, if you guys remember, what we decided to change this to is show you a spreadsheet at the top that just shows you an accumulated interest earnings for just the current year. And below is a static number, that 2,745,000. That just shows you since the beginning of our relationship until the end of last year. So you add those two numbers together, and that's the total of what has been made in all of these various accounts since we started working with you guys. If we go to page 2, you'll see that so far the first quarter of 2024, the city has earned 181,347, January, February, and March. And you see there the chart. I like to show you that. I like to show you what that looks like on a month-to-month basis. You'll see it's declining a little bit, and I just wanted to address that, and that's why I was saving a little bit of an update on the market until this. So a couple of things with that, just to kind of give you an idea of that. Bond yields have, we've enjoyed such a high rise in bond yields since October 19th of 23. From that date until January 22nd, we experienced a decline in bond yields. So anything that we reinvested into, it was at a little bit of a declining rate. Since then, rates have been climbing, so that's wonderful. We have and the market, the reason for that, the market was expecting a federal funds rate decline in the very near future, and so they're buying up what they can get. Fast forward tomorrow, there's a jobs report that comes out. There's some concern that maybe it may not be favorable, and it has caused short-term bond yields to rise. Also, that means less folks are buying them, and the yields are rising. Couple that with the likelihood, they poll all these financial folks, and the likelihood that the Federal Reserve lowers the Fed funds rate now in December is lessening. So that we may enjoy a little bit higher money market rates personally and for the city, just in our checking savings accounts for a little bit longer. But it's all to be determined, but they always do these probabilities, almost like Las Vegas. To see, what is the likelihood, and the market kind of moves in that direction. So the likelihood of a June Fed rate decline is becoming less and less likely, for whatever that's worth. Any questions for me?
Nope, seeing none. Good.
Okay.
Great.
Well, I will say Bola and Michelle have been wonderful. They're responsive, and we have a wonderful relationship. They're committed to helping maximize the earnings for the city, and I think we've got a pretty good team going. So I appreciate the ability to work with you guys.
Great. Thank you, Brad.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Item 5C on the agenda is a compensation and benefits study status update.
Human Resources. So I just wanted to provide you all with an update on where we are with PayPoint HR, what we've done so far, and how we are as far as timeline. So currently, all of the salary survey, which you have in front of you, has been distributed to our 25 comparators. We have a deadline for them to return it to us by April 12th. We've already received several back, so we are still getting those in. Also, on the agenda, you will see that we have a kickoff meeting, which will be next week, Monday and Tuesday, April 8th and 9th. So Karen will be on site, meeting with the department heads and supervisors, going over what their expectations are throughout the process of the survey. They'll also do briefing sessions with each department to speak to the employees, to work with the job description and reclassification review process. During that process, they'll explain what their expectations are for the PVP job questionnaire, which is also attached on the agenda, how they'd have to fill it out. Once we have all those back from the employees, they will go to supervisors for review so that we're not getting misleading information from the employees. So as we're working on the information from the comparators, we're also working on the job process review with the job descriptions.
Do you think that any kind of information or preliminary analysis might be available for our May meeting?
I think so. I'm hopeful that it will be based on the tentative draft timeline that we submitted for April 15th. We hope to have all the information again back by April 12th so that we can have something to review. So the goal is to have that ready. Should there be a problem, I'll hopefully be able to get you an update in time to let you know.
Thank you.
Also, if you want to meet Karen while she's on site, we have an open meeting Monday morning, 9 to 11. Rick may not be present. I know they're working on multiple projects. So for this particular reason, Karen will be here Monday and Tuesday. Feel free to drop by. We'll be in this chamber. Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 6 on the agenda is the consent agenda. The only item would be approval of the minutes from the March meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes? Are there any changes or adjustments? I'm not seeing any. Any objection to approving that by acclamation? Seeing none, it'll be approved. There is no old business. Item 8 is new business. 8A is the wellness grant. Steps in.
Wellness, sorry, Tangela Bell, HR again. The wellness grant is historically offered through Slate, and what the grant proposes is $50 for this year, this plan year 2023, 2024, $50 worth of funds for each covered employee on average. And right now, the city of Brentwood averages 120 employees. So Slate gives us $6,000 to do some type of wellness event, wellness purchase for the employees. For this year, upon joining the team in November, I wasn't aware that there wasn't a plan put together for those funds. So if we don't utilize it, we lose it. With the grant proposal, we have to pre-fund it. Slate refunds us after the program closes. So what you have in front of you is the program that we've come up with for the 2023-2024 plan year. What we like to do is do on-site chair massages for all of the employees at their different locations, making it easy for them to participate. The cost analysis is there for you too. We want to use Back to Work STL. He has enough employees so what he can bring on site to accommodate fire, PD, public works, parks, and city hall. With the additional funds, we like to do a wellness week where we incentivize the employees to participate in wellness activities where they will earn raffle tickets to go towards a drawing for different items that are listed on the grant proposal. With those items, we have to pre-purchase them, and then once the program closes, we submit all the receipts to Slate, and they refund us the full amount that we've utilized. For this program for this year, we have that amount being $5,995. Currently, those funds are available in the miscellaneous contractual expenses on the MOE account. I like to utilize those funds with the expectation that we reimburse those between July and September when they refund us, when Slate provides the refund of that amount. This program has been approved by Slate. All of the purchases have been approved by Slate. The wellness incentive participation items that we have listed out for employees that I can't share with everyone has been approved by Slate. So everything has been approved for that maximum amount of the $6,000.
Great. Sounds like a great idea. Thank you for organizing that. The chair would entertain a motion to approve, or a motion for approval to participate in the wellness grant program.
So moved.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
So this will be funded 100% by the grant, not, it's not like a match program where we need to
No, there's
grant
no
money
match.
and then we have to double it or anything like that, so,
Not this year.
okay, awesome, wonderful.
Great. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes,
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder.
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you.
We do not have an 8B for tonight, and 8C was capital fund expense, the 2023 Dodge Durango vehicle.
March 29th, we had two officers that were going en route to a emergency call at Target for subject armed with a gun in a fight. They were involved in an accident at an intersection with an 18-year-old female driver. The car was heavily damaged and later ruled to be not fixable by the insurance company. What we're requesting is that we be allowed to use capital funds from this year's budget that remain from cars that have already been purchased. There's some money left over there. Should be enough to cover the cost of this vehicle minus the amount from the insurance claim. So what we're asking for you to consider is to allow us to use that money as for the balance of the car when we replace it, along with the upfitting of the car. All of the items in the car, if they fit the new vehicle, which we think they will, it's around $8,000 or $9,000 for the transfer of all the equipment. So that would be included in this request as well, to be used in the capital. Yes, ma'am.
Alderwoman Tice, open forum.
Thank you. Several questions. So on a car that's a 2023 that we purchased for like $45,000, we're getting $20,000 back on the insurance?
I don't think we've reached a settlement with the insurance company at this point.
Not not reached the settlement. This is an estimate on what would be necessary to cover the cost to purchase it and outfit it. The insurance company cannot give us an estimate on the insurance check until they can pick it up. They can't pick it up until we can remove the outfitting of the vehicle. So there is a timing difference of it. This is what it would cost at the minimum for the insurance check to be cut to cover the difference.
We don't know what we're getting from the
I
insurance.
have no idea.
Okay, so what about the 18-year-old driver who hit the car? Or was it a no fault, or what would do, has that been decided with the, I guess the insurance company hasn't looked at the car yet, so do we know what's going on here?
Not really sure what you're asking.
Like, does the other driver have any fault here, and is there?
I would assume the insurance company will claim that she does, since they had their lights and siren activated and she failed to yield to them. Yeah, our insurance claim will say that she does. Is that correct, Bola?
We're looking for is preliminary approval because of timing, but if you all are agreeable to, because it's important that we kind of move fast, right? To begin the process of purchasing a new car. That's why we bring it up now when we don't have all the information. So if you think further about this, we could either, just sensing your comfort level, we could either hold off in a decision until we have all the information, and then if a special meeting is required, if you would be open to that, we can bring that back. We don't have all the information for you to make a decision tonight.
Did
That's
the other
just-
driver have insurance?
She did, and unless Michelle can correct me, maybe I misspoke here, but we have insurance either way. So we're going to get a check either way, whether it's from her insurance company or our insurance company.
Right.
So there's a check coming to pay for the vehicle either way.
Okay, I guess
City's amount might be reduced based on that check from both parties.
right, but
Our insurance company has deemed it to be a total loss. That is correct. They have not gotten to the point to pick it up, nor have they told me the value of the vehicle at this moment. I don't know. The amount that we need to at least cover the vehicle is the $20,000 that's listed on the piece on the memo that's been enclosed. So that's the minimum amount that is needed from the insurance company. I do believe it will exceed that amount based upon the purchase price and value of the vehicle alone.
well, I guess this is sort of different than a personal situation where you would just get a rental car, because we can't just get a rental car for a police car and wait for the insurance. But it seems a little backwards to be buying a car when it just seems like the insurance company should be covering this. And then, like, do we take the upfitting out of the current car and it goes in the new car, and that's the 11,000, or do they was that damaged too?
Complicated. Police cars are hard to find, so what we're asking you to do is approve the use of these funds so that we can start the process to look for a car. We don't even know how long that's going to take, because cars are tough to find now, police vehicles. So this allows us, if we have your permission, to use the existing funds in that account, so we know there's money, then we can start the process of trying to find a car. All of that takes time, but to answer your question, yeah, we hope to get another Durango, which means all of the equipment in that car that was wrecked will be transferred to the new car. But there's also a cost to do that, which is what I was referring to earlier. It's around $8,000 or $9,000 to take all of that equipment out of the wrecked car and into a new one. So there's just a process to the entire thing that takes a long time. Finding the car is always the trick now, though, with the condition of availability of police cars.
So have we dealt with the insurance companies before, and is there any concern that if we go ahead and buy this car now without getting the insurance settlement, that they would reduce the amount that they would pay us, or that they would?
It's the same insurance company. I don't remember that we have moved at this pace before. Things have changed. So I don't believe we've ever tried to buy a car without getting the check from them first.
I think, and again, I'd like Michelle to weigh in behind me here, just to be sure, but my intention and thought was that we were going to get approval to spend what we have left, but that doesn't mean that we're ordering the car at this point. We would have to wait until the insurance company cuts the check to the city. So until that would be the trigger for us to then turn around and order the car, but we need to know whether or not we have the remaining money to do it, because it's not going to cover the cost of the entire car. We don't know what the insurance company is going to give us for the wrecked car. It'll be the balance is what we're looking for, and that's what we're looking for approval for. But we wouldn't even be able to order the car until we know that the check has been received. Does that make sense? Because we don't even have enough money left to buy the car. It's not, we're not buying the car. We're getting approval to use these funds when the check comes to us. Am I making sense?
So, and when you would still need approval from us to buy the car, right? Down the
Still need
road.
it.
Yes.
Right.
This
But
is just
it's
to
kind of a
kinda
moot
get
point if we
this-
don't know that.
Get this in motion.
Yeah, basically, yes, I think that's accurate.
So you're looking for an up to 34,000, almost $35,000 expenditure of the existing funds.
Correct.
But
Which
you're-
is a moving
There's not a
target depending
guarantee
on the
that you're going
check.
to spend that. You're going to,
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna, so if we approve this, then it's gonna get purchased, the insurance check comes, and then you'll just come back, or you will, then it will still come back to us to purchase this.
To get approval for the vehicle purchase, yes.
Okay.
Is that, Bola, am I
Yes.
Okay, so
correct
then,
there?
then I'll make a motion to approve the purchase, the preliminary purchase of a vehicle.
Just use the language under recommendation.
Thank you, well, I'm at the wrong, I'm not,
You want me to?
yeah. do I
Motion
have-
to
The
approve.
chair would entertain a motion to approve the use of your insurance funds, the remaining funds of $34,803 to cover the cost of the purchase of a new vehicle and the required upfitting.
Could we add, I'll make the motion, but I'll add that it will come back to the board for final approval of the purchase.
to this committee.
Yeah. So,
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
yes.
Alderwoman Harder.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Great. Thank you. Item 8D on the agenda is funding for Central Core Fire Training Facility.
Good evening. I just made this similar presentation last week to the Public Safety Committee. And that was due to a timing consideration for this topic. With the recent addition of the city of Maplewood, and due to the timeliness of the lease agreement, we need to get moving on the design and planning for this facility. So with the work between Navigate Building Solutions and our training chief, they did create a cash flow model, and to get the pre-construction process rolling now, they have calculated the city of Brentwood's expenses for fiscal year '24 to be $40,562.50. So this is not budgeted this year. This would have to be funded through a budget amendment, and we are here seeking your approval for that. Finance Director Depew has created various models to help fund this, and she can provide additional information.
We always like to hear from the money lady.
Hi. Should be a memo enclosed on board docs. This has multiple moving parts. So it is the 40,000 budget amendment, which would also be a 3-year commitment. For 2025, you would need 292,000, and for 2026, it would continue to be a commitment of 137. In 27 and 28 budgets, we had earmarked $250,000, and those funds would go away. So there's sort of timeline associated with this. Currently, we have a few pending items. Essentially, how do we fund this if not by a budget amendment? There is an ARPA grant currently pending, which we don't know the current status. Correct. There's also the FEMA alternative projects funding that we're still waiting on as a city. Otherwise, it would require capital improvement fund reserves. So when we consider talking about this and the budget amendment for 2024, it actually is a commitment for at least the next 3 years to fund this type of project. In the memo that I created, it talks about the original budget that was approved, There is an example down below that says if the FEMA, SEMA projects, the alternative projects, which we had hoped would already have been approved, go through, what does the impact look like if we then input the training tower as some of these capital improvements? And that sort of is outlined in this memo. Once again, there are moving parts in which we don't have any true approvals at the moment. So at current day presentation, we would be using budget amendments and potentially reserves to fund. But we do have those pending items still out there.
Alderman Tice?
Okay, so I'll get to the fire thing. My first thing is, I want to believe you that next year, when we look at the capital budget, it actually means something, because this item is in for 2027. This was never going to be funded in 2027. It was always going to be funded earlier. So this should be a Bible, and we should be looking at this, and we should be, I know you have to make hard decisions sooner, but all of us knew that this was going to be funded before 2027, and it's sitting out here. So now we're in the position where we scramble, and everything looks good as a one-off. But when you have to compare everything at the same time, you have to make hard choices. So I'm hopeful that, I'm not saying that.
I hear
mean,
you.
But I'm hopeful
understanding as
that
somebody
your
who's
words.
inheriting the budget, I hear you.
So I'm hopeful that your words last year about making the capital budget more of a working document is true. So that's the first thing. So then the last I heard about this fire thing, our portion was $250,000, and it was $750,000 for the whole thing. And now it's gone up in cost by over $1 million, and our portion is significantly higher. So I'm like, when did this happen? And why? Like, I'm just
I
confused.
certainly
by that.
don't understand that statement. Our commitment when we signed the intergovernmental agreement with Clayton and Richmond Heights was $500,000. That was Brentwood's portion for the project. That's why we had the 250 spread out in future years. The terms of the lease agreement dictated we had to move faster than that. So now that the city of Maplewood comes in, that has allowed us to reduce our cost from 500 to less. Using Maplewood's additional funds, we're trying to do this to include the restrooms now. So we're not, it's gone from 1.5 to 1.8 million overall cost. So those are the latest discussions, and 500,000 was Brentwood's commitment when we signed the intergovernmental agreement. And we do have the ARPA grants, maybe what's coming into play, that we had that conversation. We do have 2 outstanding ARPA grants, which have not, no decision has been made yet. That should be determined this month, according to the state, which would reduce our cost even more.
Right, so this month would be the timing for the ARPA grant?
Correct.
So I understand, like, when I heard Maplewood was coming in, I thought, oh, that's great, cost is gonna go down, which I guess sort of cost has come down, but you've added, I mean, I get the restroom, but then there's this pavilion for a dirty classroom, like, it's like, okay, there's somebody new, what else can we do? Not, oh yeah, that's somebody new, let's cut the cost.
Right, so that is a combined unit, the restrooms, the pavilion, it is a single unit.
Okay, it didn't really cut our costs. I also feel like this is sort of a bigger philosophical discussion. As a board, we agreed to the lease. And I think we never had a full discussion about whether we were definitely going forward with this, but it's spending, what, $6,000 a year or whatever it was on the lease. We're like, okay, that's a good decision, let's do that. But I don't know that we've had that philosophical discussion about spending this amount of money over the next few years. So I don't know if I'm, one shaking head, if that's a discussion that the board needs to have. And then the timing, like, is there a reason we can't wait to know what happens with the ARPA grants? Because it sounds like that's a pretty significant difference of what the city's financial commitment would be. And we keep going back to, like, what if the grocery tax goes away? Maybe not this year, but in another year. People come to my ward meetings because they're gumballs on the streets. Like, extra people came last time because they're gumballs on the streets and they trip on the sidewalks. That's what we hear. So this is really, I mean, I think this is really important for the fire department, but I also think we need to look at this holistically with everything else that the city has to fund. So I'll stop and let someone else talk.
Well,
Alderman Gould.
I mean, I would feel more comfortable if we knew the outcome of some of these variables that we don't know, right? The FEMA alternate project capital fund. Those items, we talk about those items like, oh, well, if those get funded, well, then we freeze up all this money. That was money we had deferred. Those are projects we had deferred over several years. They weren't even funded in budgets. Those were, hopefully we get them funded, right? But if we don't, they become either we try to find funding for them or we defer them even more. The ARPA grant, I'd like to kind of make a decision when we know what we're dealing with, as opposed to just continually layering on these things and then hoping for the best on some of these outcomes. So I guess the question is, when do you need this decision? Is this able to be delayed enough to where we know what the outcome of some of these things are?
Yeah, would you be prejudiced at all if we waited for a determination on the ARPA funding?
I mean, if we have
push-
to wait,
And the FEMA funding.
You know, whatever available grants that may be out there funding.
Correct, so
I mean, is that,
the,
particularly since you said it was probably going to be a month?
I
mean,
agree, and I think it goes back to the IGA and doing the lease agreement. We have to push it a month, we push it a month.
We'll do what makes this board comfortable, regardless of what the other cities have done, because it seems like
I don't wanna be
they've funded theirs.
I
And
don't want to be
you know.
pressured by, because,
Right.
oh, it's up to Brentwood now, everybody's passed it, now
Yeah.
what are we going to do?
It is what it
think
is.
we do what we need to do, and if it means that we can delay a month or however long until we actually know what we're receiving from some of these funding sources, then great.
So if I can ask a question, what is it that we would be delaying? The budget amendment so that they could start the preliminary design? Or is it the commitment for the entire thing, or it's both? It's both, okay.
We will report back in May.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 8E is the ambulance billing settlement request.
Yes, so not very often we receive requests similar to what is presented in front of you tonight. This is a patient that we transported in 2020. This individual has reached a settlement agreement between all parties, and their attorney on their behalf has proposed this balance write-off in the amount of $401.08. So I'm asking for approval so that we can process this refund and receive payment in the amount of $270.62.
Make that as motion.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the settlement amount requested and balance write-off as set out in the memo. Do we have any further discussion? Not seeing any other questions, roll call?
Chairwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder.
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 4-0.
And then I guess item 8F is related, a quarterly report of ambulance fee write-offs, or maybe not.
No,
I saw ambulance.
Absolutely. So this is fourth quarter for fiscal year '23. This is the write-offs for that 3-month period. It totals $37,436.10. It does require approval for that to deduct from our books.
Would it be your general opinion that kind of chasing this money would be throwing good money after bad. I mean,
So we do. In fact, in January and February, we paid EMSMC's collection service to collect debt on our behalf. It minimal. I shouldn't say minimal. It costs. I forget their exact rate, but it
third of what's collected.
it's close. Yes, it's close.
That's the going rate.
But we continue to monitor this. Today I received March's financials on EMS billing, and the write-offs calculated for March is $5,000. So it varies. Some month or some quarters it is the upper $30,000 range, but not all. So.
But I mean, I resist the temptation. I know in my experience, I've had judgments of over $100,000 against people, and it's not worth it. Popped at me as a large number, but
Taken advantage of.
I'll accept that.
EMS billing is important to the city and the fire department because that's one of our only means to recover costs and expenses. But we're still a service, and we still want to provide a good service to the people. So it's a hard thing to juggle. Most public services do not pursue collections. We do a controlled collection process, if that makes sense.
Does EMS continue to try to collect these type of, once a city
correct
wipes it clean,
these accounts are wiped clean.
Further questions? All right, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the write-off as set out in the memo, which the debt total is $436.10, and forward such to the Board of Aldermen.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and there's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Chairwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder.
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 4-0.
Great, thank you. Item 8G on the agenda is the Police Department Emergency Generator Fuel Tank Replacement.
They just want it to work, so. I'm bringing this to you. It's in the capital. This was budgeted. We had got a quote last year as we prepared the capital budget. So last year, I know it's got the wrong date on it, but it was $15,230. So we put $16,000 in the capital, thinking that would be enough. Then in February, whenever we got the refreshed quote, and then did a CRA in March, sent it to BOLA, I know it would raise red flags because it's significantly higher. So it's roughly $10,000 higher than what it initially was. And you can see I included the two quotes. The steel tank that provides the fuel, it's the diesel fuel tank that's underneath it, that's behind the police. That tank is more than doubled. You know, it's a custom built tank. It's unique because it's just for that generator, so they have to custom build it. That is the original tank when the building was dedicated, which I'm thinking was 2002. I know I worked back there in like 03, 05, and I know police were already there. So the current tank is a double-walled tank. So you've got an exterior wall and an interior. It's the exterior that's corroded just because it's exposed to the elements. You know, when you salt the lot, any little bit of alkalinity or whatever it is that deteriorates that steel has deteriorated it. So it's just the interior wall that's left. If the tank is breached, it doesn't have a containment around it. So all of your fuel would leak out if it's on the bottom. If it's on the top, it's not as critical. But if you do lose fuel, it's less fuel to operate the unit. If it's all the fuel, then the unit doesn't run. So I know our tire machine was actually under budget, so we have some savings there. I looked at the other budget line items outside of capital. I know we're below on overtime. We're below on some of our wages because we've had turnover and brought people in at a lower wage. I know it can make up the difference, which is roughly $5,787. But wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it's higher.
Alderman Tice.
So I have a couple questions. So it's a custom-built tank. Is there a reason that it has to be a custom-built tank?
They don't make them in fiberglass or plastic or anything. And they have a crane, so whenever they replace the tank's underneath the unit. So they have to unfasten it from its foundation, lift it up, pull that old tank out, put the new tank under there, take the crane, put it back down, tighten it all up and calibrate it or whatever they do to these things.
Is this the original emergency generator?
It is, yeah.
Is there an anticipation that this will go out and then we have a custom tank for a generator that has gone out and this tank doesn't work with a different generator? I'm sort of curious why, and if this generator still exists, aren't other tanks designed like this? And aren't there other tanks?
It's because
out
it's
there?
older, it's 20 or so years old. They've changed the footprint a little bit here or there, but the motor and everything, he said, is in great shape. It still has lots of life in it, and I know it gets exercise. I don't know how often it actually is used in an emergency, but I know just recently you guys had a power loss, and I don't know what it did, but the chief could speak to that. But I know that it is critical to keep the operations, to keep computers online and things like that.
Oh, it's definitely critical. It's a really expensive tank
It is.
for a really old generator.
Right.
And if there's thought that the generator,
The new generators are even higher because we looked at that. It's like, well, if you're spending 25,000 on a tank, what's a new generator? It's like, well, that's pushing six figures.
okay, so
So
it's
it's like, well,
wow.
if I'm only paying 25, but I can get another, say, 10 years out of it, it's better than spending, say, a 90 to 100,000 on a brand new generator set.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, that was my question, and so,
Yeah.
since you answered that, I guess I'll make a motion to recommend a generator fuel tank project. Long recommendation
Forward on to the
board
for approval.
for approval.
Second.
All right, motion and a second.
Chairwoman Sims. Alderman Gould.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. And then item 8H on the agenda is Brentwood Forest Condominium Household Collections.
That one's mine as well. Brentwood Forest, it's come to our attention that currently they have barbecue grills, pits and for however many units have them. I'm not really sure, but I know in April they need to get rid of them. By the end of April, no one can have it. I believe you can't even use it in the common grounds. Their normal their normal household pickup is the fourth Friday of the month. So that would put us at April 26, 2024, if the person couldn't unload it through Facebook or however you sell these things. Each person, in theory, would have to pay $15 for a curbside pickup. I don't know how many it is. I know there's over 1,400 units. I don't know if there's like a third of those units have barbecue pits. If anyone has doubles, I know I've got 3 at my house, but I'm probably the exception to the rule.
I think so.
That's a
I
lot
got-
of grilling,
Well,
man.
propane, charcoal,
When
and
are
a
we coming
pellet.
for dinner?
Each one's a little different, but
Over
No.
there in barbecue.
yeah.
And I don't cook
My
or
goodness.
grill.
Oh, So the question was, could we make an exception, like if there's folks that can't get rid of them, and I don't know how many this is, say it's in the hundreds, would they all need to then do a ticket with Public Works to do a special collection? They go dump them in the dumpsters, and then they pay the $15 for the pickup? Or would the committee want to entertain that they get a pass on the 26th so long as it's barbecue grill, and then anything else, whether it's a couch or mattress, that would be a charge?
Help everybody out. I mean, we all have barbecue pits, and we either have to sell them or get rid of it by the end of April. We could probably stretch it to May, maybe, but we would have we were thinking of just a 1 day. If you're going to get rid of it, put it on the curb, and they would come through try to get it just to help us out to get rid of all this. But it just
It's $15.
it's $15 to get rid of the barbecue. Seems we're being hit with so many assessments. I just thought it would be nice to have, or it'll reduce costs maybe. I don't know. Maybe with Brentwood.
Yeah, 15 is like the bottom of the tier in the household collection scheme of
And it would
things.
just be barbecue pits. I mean, nothing, or the heating out, whatever they have, but you can't put a couch out there either. You know what I mean?
It would be a unique situation, like right now, tomorrow's households, and I know that there's at least one barbecue grill, there's mattress. This, if the folks, I don't know how many that is, I'm sure it's
We don't
a few
know,
hundred, but
right.
if they can't all get rid of it by the end of the month, are they just gonna abandon them at the curb and then we've gotta make a household pickup anyways? We can't leave it there indefinitely. I know if you look at the budget, it's kind of all over the place, it's not just household collections, it's also like the valet service, the rear pickup, that's all in that line item. So, we budgeted roughly 31,000, and then so far, like mid-March, according to the software, we have 4,516. We're trying to hit that 31,000. If we don't charge anyone for this, I don't know how much of a hit that is because I don't know how many would be impacted. If there's
No one
100.
knows. Maybe we can get an idea. It was just a suggestion to say, hey, because everyone has to get rid of their barbecue. To help out, the cities will do, we'll do one dump, pick up at a certain day.
Have to be done by when?
The insurance company thought it would be really nice by the end of April. That's what the board wanted. I know the insurance company's going to come by in June and walk around and look at everybody's deck to make sure they do not have a barbecue pit on there.
So, like, I feel horrible about what's going on in Brentwood Forest, but like you just said, somebody tomorrow has a barbecue grill pickup, and they're going to have to pay. So, I just sort of feel like this isn't an equitable thing to do across the city. I know after storms, we've made some exceptions about picking up limbs that we typically don't do, but that sort of impacts everyone. So I'm just a little torn here on what to, and what.
I'm concerned about I'm a bad example. I don't have a barbecue pit. But if someone wants to discard their barbecue pit and say, well, you didn't charge them, I've had a tough year too.
What is the definition of tough then? Maybe that might help you, because this is it catastrophic?
Well,
It could be.
I mean, yeah.
It could be defined.
$15
15.
doesn't seem like a big pull for one house, but if there are 300 of them, I mean, that
Yeah, and the only other thing I thought outside the box was, well, could you do like a communications blast where it's like you would store them somewhere and then it's up for grabs? It's kind of like the little lending library. It's like,
Right.
hey, there's a grill here. If you want it, take it. And if you
was-
don't, we'll scrap it, because we can scrap it if they're steel.
I would think we would need Chief Speece and the officers involved.
Yeah.
Well,
are these like propane?
We don't
No,
take
no.
the
Can't take the
propane
propane.
tanks. We'll take a
This is
propane
just
grill.
The Weber grills.
I mean,
we wanna get rid of.
that's what I was curious about, whether
Yeah.
or not, I mean, one, I think we should, from a communication standpoint in Brentwood Forest, they should be encouraged to use the free websites that are,
They have.
are out there, right? I mean, there's a
But
lot of Facebook.
There's a time limit, though. That's the whole problem.
But if you advertise a free grill and it's in decent condition, if it's not terrible condition, I mean, I'm sure people will pick it up all over the region. And then it will limit however many that are left. And then at that time, do we pick it up and then have a community sale of them for $10 each, or free?
Garage sale in October, Eric, when is it? We can store it until then?
Well, I don't know I don't want to store it until October, but I mean, just we'll pick them up, because that's the hardest part for
The guys.
the people who
Yes.
live there. They don't know where to get rid of it. And then we'll have them at Public Works, and it's a come and get them. Again, I,
I don't know, I mean, I was
It's
just,
like a logistical nightmare.
it is, but again, and I agree with you. It's $15. It's not that, really that exorbitant, for people, if they need to get rid of it. I just,
Ian, we could have multiple collection dates. We don't have to wait until the fourth Friday if it's going to be a burden for staff because all of a sudden there's 300 grills at the curb.
I mean, I'd like an understanding of max, I mean, $15 per household versus we all of a sudden are picking up 500 grills free of charge.
It
Right.
could be 500. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
I have no
just,
idea.
that
200
doesn't,
units, yeah.
I know if I lived in another ward, I would remember that this happened. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't seem.
Right. It's tough.
just an idea, just to help everybody out, because we've been hit by so many assessments and things.
Could Brentwood Forest take on that cost?
Could take on some of it, yeah. I mean,
So maybe once they determine how many there are, because they're going to go around
right,
and
we'll do
count,
something like that.
then maybe you can bring it back for consideration of the committee, unless they're saying absolutely no at this point.
50 versus 500, that's different. Like, I mean,
Right.
I'd like to have at least an appreciation of I don't know if I'm a good example, but like, I can't, but I used to spend a lot more time in Brentwood. I can't recall seeing barbecue pits on people's decks. I don't, you know,
I mean, we have one, and, I mean,
because
there's
there
quite a
would.
few.
To me, this just seems like this is a Brentwood Forest situation, right?
Okay.
Brentwood Forest should collect them all and then have a garage sale or a free, come pick them up for the region. This shouldn't be the city to have to do.
An idea to, to go back to the board.
And then if they've done that effort and there's ones that are damaged that people don't want, then I think that's something we can take up and discuss. If we know there's 10 grills that are still left that nobody can do anything, then okay, maybe we have an amnesty for these grills, but
And it seems like maybe they could get to the parking lot at the pool and
Right.
put some announcement out, and people would come from all
Gone,
over, and
right.
they'd be gone, and they'd be reused.
I mean,
They're not
there's-
getting thrown into a dumpster on top of the fact that they would disappear, they'd get off the property. They would be reused instead of just in a dumpster somewhere.
There's a lot of people that come by just to take them for recycling, or to get the
steel,
metal
yep.
scrap.
Okay, not seeing further questions on that issue. Item 9 on the agenda is citizen comment. Do we have anyone present? All right, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.